The appearance of the Antichrist called Dajjal is a big one. However, Dajjal is not actually mentioned in the Quran, only in the Hadith. Apparently, he will be a Jew that's born in Iran to parents who have not had any children for 30 years. He'll also have only one eye, and he'll claim to be a prophet. He'll deceive a lot of people by performing miracles, and the Hadith mentions that he'll have the word infidel or unbeliever written on his forehead. Now, I actually did a full video on Dajjal, and if you haven't seen it already, I have a link to that down below. Check it out, it's very interesting. At number 9, women outnumbering men 50-1. This is one of the minor signs of the end times in Islam, that women will outnumber men by a 50-1 ratio. Now, no reason is actually given, but Muslims do speculate that this could be due to men that will give their life for their faith or other military duties where women aren't necessarily as much involved as men are. Then this would eventually impact the total amount of men alive versus women alive, so the ratio will tip. The beast comes in at number 8, but this is not too scary because it's a good beast. So before the time of the end, there's going to be this good beast that comes from out of the earth. And now the beast will tell the world to recognize Allah as the supreme God. The beast will wear a ring of King Solomon, another prophet from the Quran, as well as he'll carry the rod of Moses, which is also a prophet. Also, those who reject this message will have the word infidel also written on their foreheads, similar to Dajjal. The great fire is next. So there's going to be a great fire that breaks out from the south of Eden, which today is actually known as Yemen. Now, this blaze will spread worldwide, and it's going to be so intense that it's going to drive everybody to the place of final assembly just before the day of resurrection. Now, that place will be in Syria, which includes modern day Palestine. All people are subjected to 2 judgments. There's that preliminary judgment at death, and then the final judgment at the time of resurrection. There's also the reign of Jesus. Jesus will proclaim Islam to be the true religion, and all Christians apparently are going to convert when this happens. All other religions are going to be totally eliminated as well, and Jesus will be the sole ruler of the earth. Every single animal that's harmful is going to be completely domesticated, and there's going to be a lot of rain and a plentiful amount of crops and food, and everything's going to be great. There's not going to be any weapons for war or anything like that. Everything's going to be used for the good of humanity. But the thing is, the reign of Jesus is only going to last for 40 years. And during that time, he's going to be regularly going to the city of Mecca. 21 years into his reign, it's said that he's going to marry and have children. And 19 years later, he'll pass away. Now, he'll be buried in Medina next to the Prophet Muhammad, where he will also await the day of resurrection. So when Jesus dies, all the believers will also die peacefully. And unbelievers will be left alone, left behind to just fully indulge their evil passions. Gog and Magog come at number 5. Well, before the reign of Jesus happens, the invasion of Gog and Magog will happen. Now, this one is mentioned in the Quran in Surah 18 verses 83 to 99, as well as Surah 21 verse 96. Gog and Magog are represented by 2 nations that are going to have a massive army, and they're going to invade Palestine from the north, and they'll also besiege Jesus as well as his followers. And Jesus at that time is going to pray to Allah to save them, and that's when Allah is going to respond by sending this insect plague that's going to destroy all of those armies. Now, one of the last signs before the end will be an amazing miracle that's going to happen. The sun is actually going to rise in the west. Normally it's in the east. Another minor sign is the smoke. So according to the Quran, there's going to be this cloud of smoke that's going to arise and just cover the entire earth. Now, when this happens, it's going to cause a lot of suffering on the planet. Now, number 2, the Caliphate, which is the seat of Islamic authority, will be established in the Holy Land. Now, a lot of Muslims have a hard time with this because they're not necessarily sure what the term Holy Land actually means. Some say it refers to Palestine, and if it does refer to Palestine, that means that this prophecy hasn't happened yet. And some Muslims believe that this refers to Saudi Arabia, and if it is Saudi Arabia, then this prophecy was fulfilled 1400 years ago. And the final sign of prophecy that I want to mention dealing with the end times in Islam is the 3 trumpets. So after the gathering of the people that I mentioned to Syria from around the world, the first of the 3 trumpets will blow. The first is called the trumpet of terror, and that's going to be like a wake-up call. That's going to like put a lot of fear in the hearts of people, like, oh my god, the end is coming. Then there's going to be a second trumpet, and that one is called the trumpet of swoon. This will make every single creature in heaven and earth earth die, except God and except anyone that God chooses to spare, as well as the martyrs who are alive in paradise. They will all be fine. Now when the universe is totally empty of all life, Allah will declare that He's all powerful and the God of all. 3 times Allah is going to shout, I am the mighty one, and then again 3 times He's going to say, to whom does the kingdom belong to? Then obviously there's going to be no answer back, and He's going to say, it belongs to the only one, God the Conqueror. During the time between these 2 trumpets, that's when Allah is going to create a new heavens and a new earth, and when it's complete, that's when the final trumpet is going to be blown, and that is the trumpet of resurrection. So let's jump into this episode. Starting at number 10, the first sign is earthquakes. The hour, which is known as the day of resurrection, will not be established till earthquakes will increase in number. Now that's from the Hadith Bukhari volume 9 book 88. So when you take a look, between the 11th and the 18th century there were 64 earthquakes. Now in the 19th century that number was around 47 earthquakes, and in the 20th century there have been approximately 313 earthquakes. Then now in the 21st century there have been approximately 380 earthquakes. So Muslims believe that we are actually living in one of the end time signs right now. Next is what the Prophet Muhammad said, the hour will not be established till the people compete with one another in constructing high buildings. This is found in Bukhari volume 9 book 88, Hadith 237. He also said, when you see naked barefoot ones becoming leaders of men, that is one of its signs. When the shepherds of lambs compete in constructing tall buildings, that is one of its signs. So Muslims look at places like Dubai in particular, and structures like the Burj Khalifa, which stands at 828 meters tall. Also the Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia, after completion it's going to be the tallest building in the world, which will stand at 1008 meters, as well as many other tall buildings in the Arab world. The next sign is the hour will not be established till a man, when passing by a grave of someone, will say, would that I were in that place. And that's in Bukhari volume 9 book 88. Now this is believed to be describing anxiety and stress and depression levels nowadays being so high. So the belief is that we are heading in a direction where people would be happier if they weren't even alive. Next up at number 7, in the words of the Prophet Muhammad, he said, trade will become so widespread that a woman will be forced to help her husband in business. Now of course there's nothing wrong with women in business and helping their husbands grow their businesses. When you look at the time that the Quran was actually recorded, that wasn't the norm. It was the man that made the money. So you fast forward to our day and age now, it's common that women are working and starting businesses and helping their husbands also start businesses. Also in the Hadith, you'll find this statement, O Muhajirun, which are immigrants from Mecca to Medina, you may be afflicted by 5 things. God forbid that you should live to see them. If fornication should become widespread, you should realize that this has never happened without new diseases befalling the people, which their forebearers never suffered. So the word to take note of is diseases there, because STDs like HIV as well as others are very widespread, a lot more than before. The next one is from the Quran, Surah 75 verses 6 to 9. When is the day of resurrection? So when the sight becomes dazed and the moon becomes dark and the sun and the moon are brought together. So the sun and the moon, as you can see, will lose its brightness, lose its heat, will become dark, and the moon will also become dark. This is one of these signs. Imagine looking up and you're like, hey, it's daytime, but like it's so dark. Son, where'd you go? The sign that comes in at number 4 is divorces will be a daily occurrence. And that's in the Hadith according to Alama Sarafini and Awal Yam al-Qiyamah. So when you take a look, 41% of marriages end in divorce in America. There's one divorce approximately every 36 seconds. That's nearly 2,400 divorces per day, which works out to be 16,800 divorces a week and 876,000 divorces a year. Makes you wonder why people or getting married if they're just gonna divorce. I don't know. Well, that's probably another topic for another video. So the Euphrates will reveal a treasure of gold, and many people will actually lose their life fighting over it, each one of them hoping that they'll get their hands on the treasure. And that's in Sahih Muslim book 41 verse 6918. Sign number 2 is going to be an Abyssinian, aka a Habesha leader with thin shins, will destroy the KABAH. Now the KABAH is what Muslims refer to as the house of God and is located in Mecca, and Muslims all year round perform the pilgrimage called Hajj, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So as you could imagine, if this thing is destroyed, that would be a big deal. And by the way, that term there, Habesha, is used to refer to both Ethiopians and Eritreans as a whole, just in case you guys were wondering. And by the way, this is found in Sahih Muslim book 41 verse 6951. And finally, let's talk about the Mahdi, or the guided one. He's going to appear and be the Imam of the Muslims, and this is found in Sunan Abu Dawud book 36 verses 4272. The Mahdi is the redeemer of Islam, who according to some Islamic traditions will actually appear and rule for 5 or 7, 9 or 15 years, all depending on the different interpretations of the different schools of thought in Islam. So there's no direct reference to the Mahdi in the Quran, only in the Hadith you'll find mention of the Mahdi. And in most Islamic traditions, the Mahdi will arrive with Isa, who is Jesus, to defeat the Dajjal. Let's kick things off with number 10. We have the appearance of the Mahdi. Now, in simplest terms, the Mahdi is Islam's Messiah or Savior. Now, the Mahdi will rise up to launch a massive social transformation in the world in order to restore and modify all things under divine guidance. So yeah, similar to other Abrahamic religions, Jews who are waiting for the Messiah, Christians who are waiting for the second coming of Jesus, and Muslims are waiting for both the Mahdi and Jesus. Number 9, there will be moral decay. Now, according to Muslims, yes, a lot of this is happening, but there's gonna come a time where this is gonna be on another level that has never reached before. So the moral conditions at that time will be at an all-time low. In the Islamic Hadith, it says, from among the potents of the hour are the following. Religious knowledge will be taken away by the death of religious learned men. Religious ignorance will prevail. Drinking of alcoholic drinks will be very common. There will be prevalence of open illegal sexual intercourse. And that's found in the Al-Muslim volume 4, pages 1503 to 1504. Then next up, this is a pretty big one. At number 8, we have Mecca being attacked and the KABAH being destroyed. Now, one of the last signs of the day of resurrection in Islam is the destruction of the KABAH. And the KABAH will actually be destroyed by Zul Suwakatayn, and he will be from Abyssinia, aka Ethiopia, and will destroy the KABAH in order to steal its treasure and Kiswa, which is the cover of the KABAH. And the destruction of the KABAH is actually prophesied to happen after no faithful Muslim remains on the earth. Now, I talked about this briefly when I mentioned the return of the Mahdi, but it's also prophesied that, yes, Jesus will descend from heaven. So Muslims believe that Isa, aka Jesus, did not die on the cross, but that Allah raised him up to heaven, and that he's going to return one day to defeat the Dajjal, which is likened to the Antichrist. So according to the Hadith, Jesus is in the second heaven, and the Prophet Muhammad in this Hadith mentioned this, and I quote, "During the Mi'raj, which is the ascension, I met Isa on the second heaven. I found him of medium stature, reddish white. His body was so clean and clear that it appeared as though he had performed ghusl, which is an ablution cleansing of the entire body." Now, in another hadith, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned this: Allah will send Messiah in Maryam, which is the Messiah, son of Mary. Thus he will descend near the white eastern minaret of Damascus, clad in 2 yellow sheets, leaning on the shoulders of 2 angels. So we talked about the prophecies of the Mahdi and the Messiah, Isa or Jesus in Islam. Of course, we got to talk about the false Messiah now. So coming up at number 6, we have the false Messiah, Al-Dajjal, or the deceiver, aka the false Messiah / Antichrist in the Islamic faith. And he's a false messianic figure who will come forth before the end of time after a reign of 40 days or 40 years, and he will be totally destroyed by Jesus or the Mahdi or both of them. It just depends on which interpretation of the prophecy that you look at according to various Islamic views. But bottom line, this Dajjal or false Messiah is coming, and he's gonna be destroyed. And then after that, the world will submit to God. And Dajjal, by the way, he's a bad brother. He's gonna be performing miracles and deceive a whole lot of people. He's gonna make it appear like he's raising people from the dead. So he's gonna be really convincing, and at this time, it's gonna be such a time of deception that, like, if you're not on your A game, you're gonna be deceived. This guy's gonna be the master deceiver. So now moving on to number 5, we have the prophecy of Yajuj and Majuj, aka Gog and Magog. So now this is recorded in the Quran in the following verse. But when Yajuj and Majuj are let loose and they rush headlong down every hill. So just to talk a little bit more about Yajuj and Majuj, what's going on here anyways? Well, they're located in a land that's hidden from our sight, and the exact location of where they are is unknown. But though there are many interpretations that do exist, none of these, however, can be said to be 100% absolute. But they, the people of Yajuj and Majuj, are human beings, and according to a narration or a hadith, they are the offspring of Japheth, the son of Noah. These guys are so bad, like they can literally drink up a lake so fast, like all the water in the lake, and they just want to destroy people. Like they will destroy any living thing in their path. I ain't trying to see them let loose. No. I'm staying in self-isolation if that's the case. But anyways, guys, moving on to number 4, we have a huge black cloud of smoke that's going to cover the entire earth. So in the Quran, it says, "So be on the watch for a day when heaven shall bring a manifest smoke covering the people. This is a painful chastisement." And that's found in Surah 44, verses 10 and 11. And then the Prophet Muhammad also said, "The hour will not rise until you have seen 10 signs, the rising of the sun from the west and the smoke the beast." And actually, let me just pause the quote right there, because there's a difference of opinion regarding whether or not the smoke mentioned in this verse in the Quran refers to the smoke that was foretold as one of the signs of the final hour. It's mentioned that the smoke will cover the earth for a period of 40 days, which will affect both believers and disbelievers. Now, the believers will be affected as if they're suffering from a common cold or something, whereas the non-believers will suffer in a much more harsher way. But let's now move on to the prophecy of the beast of the earth. Now, the beast was also mentioned in the Quran in the following verse. "We shall bring forth for them out of the earth a beast that shall speak unto them." And you can find that in Surah 27, verses 82. Now, there's differences of opinion amongst scholars regarding the details of the beast, but they are as follows. So the first is the appearance. So some scholars have held to the belief that the beast is a she-camel of the prophet Salih, and others stated that it's an animal that is a hybrid of many different animals, and others even say that this is actually a human being. Now, the next point is the place of emergence. Some scholars state that the beast will emerge from Mecca. Others say that it's going to emerge from the desert and then disappear, then emerge from a village and then disappear, and then finally from the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. Now, there's another opinion that states that this beast will emerge from Ta'if. Then the next difference is its speech. So the beast will address the people with the words of Allah, saying, "Mankind did not believe our signs," and that's in the Quran, Surah 7, verses 82, while other scholars quote Ibn Abbas that speaking refers to the action of the beast in differentiating the disbelievers from the believers. And then the final difference is the role that the beast is going to have. So the beast will be tasked to differentiate the believers from the disbelievers, and Abu Huraira narrates that the Prophet Muhammad said this: "The beast of the earth will emerge and have with it the staff of Moses and the ring of Solomon. Now, it will use these to mark off the disbelievers from the believers." But one thing scholars can agree on is that the beast is coming. Next up, prophecy number 2, we have the sun will rise from the west. So we know the sun rises in the east. Well, not that it rises in the east, but like in the eastern direction, well, what we call east anyways. that's where the sun comes up, and over in the direction of the west, that's where the sun sets. But in Islam, it is prophesied that the sun will rise from the west instead of rising from the east in the end times before the day of judgment. Now, both the Quran and the Hadith, they talk about this phenomenon, and the occurrence of this phenomenon is considered in Islam as one of the major signs that indicate that the day of judgment is close. Specifically, the Quran says, "No good will it do to a person to believe then, if he believed not before, nor earned good by performing deeds of righteousness through his faith." And that's found in Surah 6 verses 158. And this verse is believed to be referring to the rising of the sun from the west, according to popular opinion of Muslim scholars. It is also believed that the Prophet Muhammad said that becoming a believer will be of no benefit after the sun rises from the west. And finally, the last prophecy to mention in this episode is the second blow of the trumpet that's gonna sound. The Prophet Muhammad, he is believed to have said that one who will blow the trumpet has been ready to do this since Allah created him. And in a quote, the Messenger of Allah said, "The gaze of the one who will blow the trumpet has been fixed since he was entrusted with it, looking towards the throne, ready to blow it in case he will be commanded to do so before he blinks, as if his eyes are two shining stars." Now, the majority of the Muslim scholars share the view that the trumpet will be blown twice. Now, on the first trumpet, all creatures will pretty much just pass out. And the second trumpet is a time of resurrection. And this is based on the verse in which the Quran says, "And the trumpet will be blown, and all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth will swoon away, except him who Allah wills. Then it will be blown a second time, and behold, they will be standing, looking on, waiting." And you can find that in the Quran, Surah 39, verses 68. 10, we have the prophecy of the establishment of Israel. You can find this prophecy in Surah 17 in the Quran, and it goes as follows. "And after him we said to the children of Israel, dwell ye in the promised land, and when the time of the promise of the latter days come, we shall bring you together out of various people." Number 9 brings us the prophecy of the Mahdi, or the guided one. And this prophecy states that the guided one will appear to be the Imam of the Muslims. This is found in the Hadith, Sunan Abu Dawud, book 36, number 4272. The Mahdi is known as the Redeemer in Islam, according to some Islamic traditions. And this person will appear and rule for 5, 7, or 9 or even 19 years according to different interpretations. There is, however, no direct reference of the Mahdi in the Quran, only in the Hadith. And in most Islamic traditions, the Mahdi will arrive along with Isa, or Jesus, to defeat Dajjal, or the false Messiah. There's also a prophecy of earthquakes. In the Hadith, it says, "The hour will not be established till earthquakes will increase in number." And that is found in Bukhari, volume 9, book 88. Yajuj and Majuj is another prophecy at number 7, and this is recorded in the Quran in the following verse. "But when Yajuj and Majuj are let loose and they rush headlong down every hill." Specifically, that's in Surah 21. And if you're not familiar, Yajuj and Majuj, they are a group of people that now they're situated in a land that is hidden from sight. It's completely blocked off. And that location that they are specifically is unknown. They're believed to be humans that, according to one narration, are the offspring of one of Noah's sons, known as Yafith, or Japheth in English. And Prophet Noah is known as Nu in Arabic. Number 6 brings us a prophecy about STDs that are going to be increasing and spreading in the land rampantly. In the Hadith, there's a passage that says, "O Muhajirun, you may be afflicted by 5 things. God forbid that you should live to see them. If fornication should become widespread, you shall realize that this has never happened without a new disease befalling the people which their forebears never suffered." So that talks about fornication and disease, STD, sexually transmitted disease. Moving on to number 5, there's a prophecy involving the darkness of the sun and the moon. This is found in the Quran, Surah 75, verses 6 to 9. And that goes as follows. "When is the day of resurrection? So when the sight becomes dazed and the moon becomes dark and the sun and the moon are brought together. So in that passage, the sun is going to lose its brightness and heat and become dark, and the moon also is going to be darkened as well. The Kaaba getting destroyed is a prophecy at number 4. It's said that there's an Abyssinian leader with 2 small shanks is going to be the person that is going to destroy the Kaaba. Now the Kaaba is, by the way, what Muslims refer to as the house of God. It is located in Mecca, and Muslims every single year perform a pilgrimage known as Hajj, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And this is referred to, by the way, in the Hadith Sahih Muslim book 41, number 6951. The next prophecy to look at is the sun rising in the west. Islam prophesies that the sun is one day going to rise from the west instead of rising from the east as it normally does. This is going to be in the end times, just before the day of judgment. Both the Quran and the Hadith mention this, and this is actually considered to be one of the major signs that indicate that Judgment Day is really close. There is reference to this in the Quran, and also in the Hadith. It's believed that the Prophet Muhammad said these words: "Becoming a believer will be of no benefit after the sun rises from the west." For number 2, let's talk about the smoke covering the earth prophecy. Over in the Quran, here's a passage that says this: "So be on the watch for a day when heaven shall bring a manifest smoke covering the people. This is a painful chastisement." That's taken from Surah 44 verses 10 to 11. And according to the Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad said these words: "The hour will not rise until you have seen 10 signs: the rising of the sun from the west, the smoke, the beast." And it goes on, but as you can see, the smoke is there in this passage as well. Now, there is some differences of opinions whether or not the smoke that's mentioned in the verses of the Quran refers to the smoke that was actually foretold as one of the major signs of the Day of Judgment. It's mentioned that the smoke is going to cover the earth for a period of 40 days, and then this is going to affect the believers as well as the disbelievers. But the believers are not going to suffer as much, but the disbelievers are going to be suffering a whole lot. Either way, that leads us to our final prophecy, and that is the prophecy of Jesus's return. Muslims believe that Isa, also known as Jesus, did not die on the cross, but that Allah raised him to heaven, and one day he's going to return to defeat Dajjal, or the Antichrist or false Messiah. According to one hadith, Jesus is now in the 2nd heaven, and the Prophet Muhammad mentioned this: "During the Miraj or Ascension, I met Isa on the 2nd heaven. I found him of medium stature, reddish white. His body was so clean and clear that it appeared as though he had just performed ghusl, which is ablution and cleansing the entire body." And in another hadith, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned, "Allah will send Masih ibn Maryam," which is Messiah, the son of Mary. "Thus he will descend near the white eastern minaret of Damascus, clad in 2 yellow sheets, leaning on the shoulders of 2 angels." It's reported in Sahih Muslim 809a that whoever knows the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from Dajjal. And if you don't know, Surah Al-Kahf is 18th surah, and the first 10 verses are as follows: "All praise is due to Allah, who has sent down upon his servant the book and has not made therein any deviance. He has made it straight to warn of severe punishment from him and to give good tidings to the believers who do righteous deeds, that they will have a good reward, in which they will remain forever, and to warn those who say Allah has taken a son. They have no knowledge of it, nor had their fathers. Grave is the word that comes out of their mouths. They speak not except a lie. Then perhaps you would kill yourself through grief over them, O Muhammad, if they do not believe in this message, and out of sorrow. Indeed, we have made that which is on earth adornment for it, that we may test them as to which of them is best indeed. And indeed, we will make that which is upon it into a barren ground. Or have you thought that the companions of the cave and the inscription were among our signs a wonder? Mention when the youths retreated to the cave and said, Our Lord, grant us from yourself mercy and prepare us from our affair right guidance. Dajjal will also be blind with one eye, and the Prophet Muhammad referred to Dajjal as Al-Awar, which means blind with one eye. The Prophet Muhammad also said that the Dajjal's right eye would look like a floating grape and his left eye will be defective in some way also. When it comes to the Dajjal's hair, it's cited in the Sahih al-Bukhari 3439 as well as in Ibn Majah 4071, which are collections of Islamic traditions. It said that the Prophet Muhammad narrated a fact about Dajjal's appearance, that he will have very curly hair as well as he'll have lots of hair. I think of Medusa when I hear lots of hair and like crazy looking eyes. The Prophet Muhammad also said that the word kafir would be written on his eyebrows and forehead, and a believer of Allah can spot this easily. This is cited in Sahih Muslim 2933b. And in Sahih Muslim 2934b, it is stated that even an uneducated person would be able to see this and read it. Dajjal also won't be able to enter the cities of Medina and Mecca. It's mentioned in Sahih Muslim 2943 that Dajjal, just can't enter into these cities, as well as other hadiths have stated this fact. In Sahih al-Bukhari 7134, it says that the Prophet said, "He will come to Medina and find the angels guarding it, so Allah willing, neither Dajjal nor plague will be able to come near it." Sahih al-Bukhari 7125 mentions that Medina will have 7 gates at that time and 2 angels will be guarding every single gate. So if Dajjal even thinks about coming, the angels just knock him out. Okay guys, so one of the scariest things about Dajjal is that he will have the power to bring the dead people back to life. So according to Sahih al-Bukhari 1882, Dajjal will have so much power that he'll be able to end somebody's life and then make that same person come back to life. Just imagine seeing that. That would be so trippy. I'm calm. Okay. Anyways, it's also stated in Sahih Muslim 2440 that the Prophet Muhammad said Dajjal also will be followed by 70,000 Jews. So he's gonna have a Jewish army. Apparently those people are gonna be completely deceived. There's also mention of water and fire associated with Dajjal. In Sahih al-Bukhari 7130, it says that Dajjal will come with fire and water. Now what would seem to be water will actually be fire, and what looks like fire is actually going to be water. Is that symbolic of something? The next thing is that the Prophet Muhammad said that there will be a small number of Arabs in those days because they're going to run away from Dajjal and seek protection. And that's found in Sahih Muslim 2945a. And the final thing I want to share in relation to Dajjal is that Isa is the one that's going to kill Dajjal after he's sent by Allah back to the earth. So the Prophet Isa, which is the Arabic name for Jesus, is going to kill Dajjal at Bab el-Lud in Israel, and this is found in Jami Tirmidhi 2244. So according to Muslim scholars, there are 3 aspects of the Dajjal. There's Dajjal the individual, then there's Dajjal as a worldwide social and cultural phenomenon, then there's Dajjal as an unseen force. Now according to the opinions of scholars, the second and third aspects of Dajjal will be established before Dajjal the individual actually appears on this earth. So he'll be here when the support system that he really needs is all in place throughout the world. Dajjal will also be a man of Jewish descent. Now he's not a jinn or some other type of creature or anything like that. Ubadah, the son of Samit, who is a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, once said this: "I have explained Dajjal to you, but I fear that you might not have understood. Masih Dajjal will be short and his legs will be crooked. He'll also come in the time of Mahdi, after Mahdi succeeds in overcoming the forces of the other nations and sets up his kingdom to rule. This will be a time when justice will be spread throughout the earth." So when you see that, that's an indication that Dajjal is coming soon. Also in the Sahih Muslim hadith, Antichrist, known as Dajjal in Islam, was already a form for some time. He was chained up on an island and awaited by an animal whose name is Al-Jassasa, aka the beast of the earth. The Dajjal or Antichrist was already there, and he waited days to be allowed by God to get out and explore the rest of the earth. Also, Jabir ibn Abdullah, who's also a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, had said this: the Dajjal will appear at the end of time when religion is taken lightly. He will have 40 spiritual days, about 1.25 years in actuality, and this is according to many scholars. Now continuing the quote, in which to travel throughout the earth. One of these days will be like a year, another will be like a month, a third will be like a week, and the rest will be like normal days. He will be riding a donkey, which scholars interpret as some sort of jet, because it's said that the width between its ears will be 40 cubits, so this is understood to be a representation of wings. Dajjal is also described in the hadith as having many eyes on both sides, as well as traveling around the world very quickly. Among other descriptions of the Dajjal, you'll find that the Dajjal can be heard all around the world at the exact same time. Dajjal will also talk about the fire, Jahannam, which is equivalent to hell, and make it seem like the garden, Jannah, which is equivalent to heaven. He'll be proclaiming justice, but he will do a lot of injustice, and he'll proclaim peace, but he's going to be doing the opposite of peace. So basically, he's going to be doing exactly the opposite of what he says, hence the term Dajjal, which also can translate to the deceiver. So his name apparently is Abdullah, son of Siyatid or Siyadid. The exact pronunciation is still up for debate though, and his title that's going to be given is Al-Masih al-Dajjal, meaning the false Messiah. However, he's going to also claim to be divine, so he in a sense is going to be a false deity as well. Another thing to note is that the hadith of Hadrat Asma, who is a daughter of Yazid, narrates the following: the Messenger of Allah once came to my house, and there he spoke about Dajjal. He said that before the emergence of Dajjal, there will be 3 spells of drought. In 1 year, the skies will withhold 1/3 of its rain, causing the earth to withhold 1/3 of its produce. In the 2nd year, the skies will withhold 2/3 of its rains, causing the earth to withhold 2/3 of its produce. In the 3rd year, the skies will withhold all its water, and there will be no crops that year. All animals, be they hooved or toothed, will pass away as a result. And the final thing to share about Dajjal is that it's also mentioned that the greatest evil of Dajjal will be to approach people and then he asks them this question: if I bring your camel back to life, will you then believe that I am your Rabb? And by the way, Rabb is an Arabic word for Lord. And this person will reply, most certainly. After that, Shaitan, which are comparable to evil spirits in English, will appear before this person in the form of his camel, so the person is going to think that the camel came back to life. Likewise, Dajjal will appear before another person whose father and brother have long passed away and ask, if I bring your father and your brother back to life, will you believe that I am your Rabb? Then the person will reply, why not? So then Shaitan will once again take the form and the appearance of that brother and the father.
Dajjal makes his entry. There are a couple of signs of the appearance of Dajjal. In one of the hadiths that was narrated by Ibn Majah, it talks about how the Holy Prophet said that before the arrival of Dajjal, there will be 3 years of famine. In the 1st year, Allah will command the skies to withhold 1/3 of its rain and the earth to withhold 1/3 of its produce. In the 2nd year, Allah will command the skies to withhold 2/3 of its rain and the earth to withhold 2/3 of its produce. In the 3rd year, Allah will command the sky to withhold all of its rain, and it will not rain a single drop of rain. He will command the earth to withhold all of its produce. During this time, no plants will grow. It's kind of hard to imagine how to live in this situation. Moving on to number 9. A very interesting description that the Holy Prophet gave about Dajjal is that there would be the word kafir written in the center of the forehead near the eyes. If you guys don't know, basically what a kafir means, it means non-believer. Anyone who's a believer of Allah will be able to clearly see the words and recognize that it's Dajjal. In the Sahih Muslim book, there is another hadith that mentions how even the illiterate people will be able to read the word kafir on his forehead. Moving on to number 8, a lot of people were really curious about the appearance of Dajjal. So especially during the time of the Holy Prophet, a lot of people wanted more descriptive appearance, and the Holy Prophet gave a very detailed description. He said, that Dajjal would be blind in one eye and called him Al-Anwar, which means one with blind one eye. In detail, he said that Dajjal's right eye will be like a floating grape. It'll be shaking, so it wouldn't be like in a fixed position. In a couple of hadiths, the Holy Prophet gave a small description of Dajjal's hair. In Sahih Bukhari as well as Sunnah Ibn Majah, which are the books containing Islamic tradition and hadiths, it says that the Holy Prophet described Dajjal's hair to be long and curly, so thick that it'll pretty much look like snakes hanging from his head. Isn't that interesting? So one of the scariest things, but yet one of the most interesting things about Dajjal is the fact that he has the power to bring anyone back from the dead. One of the hadiths that was narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri in Sahih Bukhari 1882, it mentions how a man will walk up to him and Dajjal will ask the people that, "If I kill this man and bring him back to life, will you doubt my claims?" And so it says that he will be killing the man and bringing him back to life and trying to get more people to believe that he's the Messiah. Moving on to number 5. No matter how powerful he seems, he won't be able to enter the city of Mecca and Medina despite of how much he tries. This is mentioned in a couple of hadiths. So in the Sahih Bukhari 7134, it says that the Holy Prophet said, "Dajjal will come to Medina and find the angels guarding it. So Allah is willing, neither Ad-Dajjal nor plague will be able to come near it." There was another hadith that I found in Sahih al-Bukhari 7125 that mentions how there will be 2 angels guarding each of the 7 gates of Medina. So moving on to number 4, it was reported that Dajjal will have something to do with water and fire. In the Sahih al-Bukhari 7130, it mentions that whatever seems like water will actually seem like fire, and in the same way, whatever seems like fire will seem like cold water. So moving on to number 3. So Dajjal is basically the biggest fitna in history. In short, basically what fitna means is it's an Arabic word for a testing period. It mentions in Sahih Muslim 809a that if anyone learns by heart the 10 verses of the Surah Al-Kahf, then they will be protected from Dajjal. If you guys don't know, Surah Al-Kahf is the 18th surah in the Quran. Another interesting thing that was mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari 3337 is that all the prophets warn the people about Dajjal and its fitna. Because he's the biggest fitna, a lot of people actually pray that, they never encounter this guy. Moving on to number 2, it is also stated in the Sahih Muslim 2944 that the Holy Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Dajjal will be followed by 70,000 Jews. The Arabic word that was translated to mean 70,000 was often also used a word to describe a large number of people or things. So this hadith could mean that there will be exactly 70,000 followers, or it's referring to a large number of people or groups. So moving on to the final fact of this episode is that Prophet Isa will be the one to take down the big bad Dajjal. So Prophet Isa, who's also known as Jesus in Christianity, will be the one to kill Dajjal at Bab-e-Lud, which is in Israel. And this was mentioned in Jami al-Tirmidhi 2244.
10. There's gonna be a period of 3 years of drought and famine. The hadith of Hadrat Asma, who is the daughter of Yazid, he narrates the following. The Messenger of Allah once came to my house and there he spoke about Dajjal. He said that before the emergence of Dajjal, there will be 3 spells of drought. In 1 year, the skies will withhold 1/3 of its rains, causing the earth to withhold 1/3 of its produce. In the 2nd year, the skies will withhold 2/3 of its rain, causing the earth to withhold 2/3 of its produce. In the 3rd year, the skies will withhold all its rain and there will be no crops that year. All animals, be they hooved or toothed, will pass away as a result. No animals, nothing. What? That is pretty scary. Now at number 9, we have Dajjal will do the opposite. So let me break it down for you. Dajjal will talk about the fire, or Jahannam, known as hell, and make it seem like it is the garden, or Jannah, which is known as heaven. And he's gonna proclaim justice, but he's gonna pursue injustice. He's also gonna proclaim peace, but he's gonna pursue the complete opposite of peace. Pretty much everything that he proclaims, he is gonna do the opposite. But it's said that a lot of people are gonna be deceived by these blatant lies. Now let's talk a little bit about the appearance of the Dajjal, like what's Dajjal going to look like. It's believed that Dajjal is going to be blind in one eye. People have always been curious about the appearance of Dajjal, even during the time of the Prophet Muhammad. A lot of people wanted, just some more descriptions of what he's gonna look like, what's his appearance gonna be like. So the Prophet Muhammad, he gave some detailed descriptions. And in one of the hadith, it records that the Prophet Muhammad said that Dajjal would be blind in one eye, and he called him Al-Anwar, which means one with a blind eye. He also said that Dajjal's right eye would look like a floating grape. So it's going to be shaking, it's not too firm, it's not going to be in a fixed position or anything. Number 7 brings us another physical description of Dajjal, and that's about Dajjal's hair. It's cited in Sahih al-Bukhari, number 3439, page 344, as well as in Majah 4071, which are both collections of Islamic traditions known as hadith. And according to those, the Prophet Muhammad said that Dajjal's appearance when it comes to his hair is going to be very curly, as well as he's going to have a whole lot of hair. It's even reported that it'll be so thick that it almost looks like there's snakes coming out of his head. Kind of reminds me of Medusa from Greek mythology, I'm not gonna lie, when I was researching this fact. But she had like literal snakes in her hair though, and anybody that looked at them would turn to stone. I don't think Dajjal has that ability though, according to Islam. Either way though, it sounds like the sky is gonna look pretty scary. Next up, let's talk about fire and water. It's believed that Dajjal will have something to do with fire and water. It's a little bit ambiguous, not 100% clear, but according to Sahih al-Bukhari number 7130, it's mentioned that whatever seems like water will actually be fire, and in the same way, whatever seems like fire will be water. The scary belief at number 5 is Dajjal bringing animals back to life. It's also mentioned that when people asked about Dajjal, this is what was said to them. Dajjal's gonna say this: if I bring your camel back to life, will you then believe that I'm your Lord? Then the person will say, yes, of course, but the shaitan, also known as jinn, will appear before the person in the form of his camel, for example. So it's gonna look like the animal was brought back to life, and they already admitted that, hey, if this person does this, they're gonna say that, oh my God, you are my Lord. And that's how Dajjal is going to gain a lot of followers. Number 4 though, this is also very similar, bringing people back from the dead. And this is one of the scariest things about Dajjal, is that he's going to apparently have the power to bring people back to life. According to the hadith Sahih al-Bukhari number 1882, Dajjal will have enough power to end someone's life and then also make that person come back to life. But not exactly though. More accurately, Muslims believe that Dajjal will apparently end somebody's life and then also apparently bring them back to life. What actually is going to happen is that there will be evil jinn that work under the power of Dajjal that take the form of people who have passed away, and then they're going to come back to life, and a lot of people are going to be deceived because of this. There's also the belief of the multiple aspects of Dajjal, and this is according to many Muslim scholars. There's actually not one aspect of Dajjal, not even 2, but there's a total of 3 different aspects of Dajjal. The first aspect is the individual Dajjal, which we've been talking about in this episode. Then there's also going to be Dajjal as a worldwide social and cultural aspect. Then the third part is going to be Dajjal as an unseen force. Now, according to scholars, the second and third aspect of Dajjal will be established before the Dajjal individual is going to come on the scene. So it's believed that Dajjal is going to come on the scene when the system that is going to support him is in place all around the world. According to the hadith Sahih Muslim 809a, that whoever knows the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from Dajjal. The belief at number 2 is that there's going to be the greatest testing period in all of humanity. This is known as the biggest fitna in all of history, is linked to the appearance of Dajjal. So this is going to be a time where people are going to go through a lot of testing their faith. They're going to experience a lot of pain pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of temptation that are going to shake the very core of their being. But like I mentioned in number 3, those who know Surah Al-Kahf, which is the 18th surah of the Quran, they got nothing to worry about. And the final belief about Dajjal that is pretty scary is Jabir ibn Abdullah, who is a companion of the Prophet Muhammad. He said these words. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The Dajjal will appear at the end of time when religion is taken lightly. He will have 40 spiritual days," which according to scholars is 1.25 years in actuality, "in which to travel throughout the earth. One of these days will be like a year, another will be like a month, and a third will be like a week, and the rest will be like normal days. He will be riding a donkey," which scholars interpret to be some sort of jet or another mode of transportation, because it's said that the width between the ears will be 40 cubits. So this is understood to be the distance measured between the wings. Also, Dajjal is described in the hadith as having many eyes on both sides and being able to travel the world very, very, very quickly. This is why it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to actually be on a literal donkey. Donkey just probably refers to a mode of transportation, because you can't travel that fast on a donkey. And finally, Dajjal can be heard all around the world at the very same